Hey guys, welcome back to the Unwracked Podcast. I'm Andrew Barry, your host, and I'm joined by my co-host Kyle Wilkes. Today we're going to do another Q&A. We both have been having a lot of things going on, whether it's North Americans, traveling. We had a holiday with Labor Day going on, and I just want to open up the show and ask Kyle, how was your day today? Did you get some time off, or did you labor on Labor Day?
A little bit of both. I have the physical labor. I was able to get into the gym myself. Crowded gym on Labor Day, to say the least. And then, I have people that are in prep, so ensuring that they don't lose their mind. Going into this week is always important. And then try to take some downtime, still unpacking the house, as I mentioned. We moved in here about a week and a half ago, so that's always fun, to say the least. But what about yourself? How did your Labor Day weekend and your Monday go?
Well, today kind of felt like a Sunday. It felt like, anytime you have a holiday that falls on like a Monday, it feels like it's an extended Sunday. But, I got off the plane yesterday from Pittsburgh, North Americans, and I crashed. So I got a little bit of work done last night, but I had a lot of work to do this morning, which I tackled. And then I had a barbecue with a great couple from our gym at MI40 and met up with some great people. And then I get to spend the rest of the evening with my man Kyle. So things are
Very
good.
cool. Very good.
Give me a recap. How'd your North Americans go?
North Americans went good. I had three people there. One pro card, got a fifth place, and then got a second call out for the first time with a competitor that I've had for a long time. Reality is we've moved up weight classes over the recent years, and the level of conditioning we used to bring that, we always have a problem maintaining the leg size, which has always been the feedback as to, hey, let's improve the leg department. So we just need a longer off season, right? He worked through some injuries. His name's Eric. He works super hard, great physique. It's just a matter of him tying it all together and taking more time. And I don't know about you, but I think the bodybuilding division is one of the more challenging ones to win a pro card. So especially when you're moving up from middleweight to light heavy, then trying to come in at the top of light heavy because you have people that are sucking down from heavyweight. It's a very challenging division, and I thought North Americans had a very good arsenal of people in that light heavy and heavyweight division. So that was cool to see the competition getting better. But yeah, just back to the drawing board. What about you? I know you had a plethora of people.
Yeah, well, I had three, but one of my guys did. He's a master's guy. He did bodybuilding and classic, so he had to go, Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah.
He did well. He got third in one of his classes. He got fourth in another class. So, I was very pleased with that. It's his first national show. The funny thing is, though, he's telling me, he's like, okay, you're going to put 13 pounds of muscle on me this offseason. We're going to come back to this show. And it's kind of funny when someone says that. It's like, well, first off, no offense, sir, but you're over 50. You've been lifting with weights a long time, and if it was meant to happen, that you were supposed to have this massive jump in muscular weight from stage, in classes, it probably would have happened in your 20s to 30s. You know what I mean? But I enjoy his attitude. He's very cheery, and it's always nice when an athlete who, let's say they want to go get a pro card, and it doesn't happen, if they're just as excited and just as happy to get back to work, then versus the alternative of being bummed, doom and gloom, I'm never doing this sport again, what are the judges looking at, etc. So very positive. And then I had a bikini athlete who prepared very well, but she has an issue with stage fright, and it's something that we're going to have to overcome with some mental mindset conditioning in the future here. I'm actually having to do a couple more shows this season to work on that specifically, some local shows.
Okay.
And then I had my heavyweight, Sid Ray, who didn't post much about him doing the show, and to everyone's surprise, he showed up. We were posting a few stories the night before, and a lot of people were surprised he was competing, and he would agree with me. This was his best look yet. He came in great condition, full round, and he got third place. So we were happy with that, but we're right back to work to get him ready for next year's season. So, and with that said, let's jump into some questions.
Make them good.
I'm going to scan the good ones. Do you think the EQ is a good substitute for Masteron during the shortage? And that's from Ollie Campkin.
The shortage verbiage.
Yeah.
Do I think it's not the same as Masteron, right? So I think right off the bat, I don't compare apples to oranges. It's another anabolic. I think Equipoise, or Boldenon, as you want to call it. I see it to be beneficial in recent years. I think it's caught a lot of heat for anxiety and things of that nature. But before that was a popular thing to kind of point the finger at. The only concern really with equipoise is always red blood cell count, H&H getting a bit high. But I think it's something that people should try in bodybuilding. It's a lean mass builder, something that I think is good compared to maybe other, anabolics that throw a lot of water on your frame and can compromise insulin sensitivity. So I think, again, long story short, I don't compare it to Masteron. If you had to use another compound, I think it's something to give a try to, but it's also something you use for a longer period of time. It's not a 6 or 8 week type drug, so keep that in mind as well.
Yeah. With, you brought up some of the mental side effects with EQ and even all PEDs in general. And here's my stance on that is that I think just because we, especially with the social media and how big the IFBB NPC has become, we're catering to a larger group of people. And that larger group of people are taking PEDs. And I think personally we're running into more people with maybe some mental health issues that we wouldn't have before just because we didn't have the numbers before. And I'm not saying that EQ doesn't cause these issues. I just think that we're running into a larger population of people that might have mental issues and some things they probably just shouldn't be taking. And on that note, though, I think, as Kyle said, EQ versus, say, Masteron or Primobolan, they're different families. One's a DHT compound, one's from the testosterone base, right? So in that family tree of PEDs, they're a little bit different. But I think you might be able to, let's say you have no access to Masteron whatsoever, I think you can elicit a similar look by using EQ. And again, longer term, it's not something you're throwing in for the last 6 weeks of the show. You probably want to run it right through your prep. You can combine it with different orals, whether it's Winstrol, I think would be the appropriate one. I would probably run the Winstrol a little bit higher if I was using EQ for a prep. Yeah, I think that answers that.
Yeah.
This one's definitely for you, from John Panula. When is your next show?
Well, it wasn't North Americans. There's no show on the horizon for me. I think life is lifing. I have the Olympia to prepare for. That's top priority right now in terms of shows. And then from there, I get married at the end of the year. So that's kind of my focus. I don't think doing nationals or something like that, and when I'm supposed to be meeting with vendors and planning things, is probably going to be appropriate nor conducive to my relationship. So, that being said, as I think I told you, Andrew, if I have the opportunity, maybe next year after, and it works in that facet, I'd love to step on stage again. At the very least, at least my last showing, I think was the best I've ever been, which is great. I came back from my injuries. I feel good. And now, it's just more of putting my time into places that I couldn't as much, because at any time anyone preps, I don't care what they say, it becomes somewhat selfish, right? You start to neglect certain things, whether it's your partner, your dog, kids, stuff like that. Yeah. So I just want to definitely put back into everything that I might have turned the dial down a little bit on. So I recognize that, and that's my focus.
I also want to point out, it's pretty hard to be a good prep coach and also prep at the same time, because as you pointed out, bodybuilding is at some level very selfish. And we know that when we're working with people, we got to put them first. It's the reason why I'm not competing anymore. It's because I want to make sure, I'd rather be a good coach than a good athlete in that sense. And I think what you're doing is smart. You're really rationally looking at the situation and saying, okay, rather than trying to throw way too much on my plate right now with having, Nick and the Olympia and having your other businesses and your other athletes you're working on, the wedding, all that stuff, trying to throw a prep into that, to me, on the outside looking in, I don't think anything would come in at 100%. You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah. All right. Running a fertility protocol post-show for only 6 weeks, is it worth it? Or is it not long enough? From Stets Fit 2. Running a fertility.
So, I think depending on one's age, that's most important. I generally try to have a conversation with everyone, whether it's pre-contest or off-season, whatever, on what their stance is. For some people, they don't have any intentions of having kids, right? In a perfect world, going back in time, I would have had my sperm frozen for sure. That was the route I would have went. Mm-hmm. But to answer the question, 6 weeks generally probably isn't long enough, but it's something, right? So I would definitely administer HCG, try to see some stimulation, the gonads having a response. So when you get, FSH, LH, and that tested, you want to see something there. You don't want to see 0.0, as most people will. So generally, I'd say high level 15,000 IU of HCG should be ran over at least a 6 to 8 week period, and sometimes longer. For some people, they respond very well, and for others, it's going to take a lot more than that. I think it depends on the abuse to the body, how hard the deficit is, your allostatic load, things like that. But what is your protocol or something like that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I have a set protocol, but I would say it's all situational. And like we were talking about variables, what compounds were you running during prep? Meaning some compounds will shut you down more than the others, right? Yeah. Where's your sperm load, motility, and morphology? I think I have a lot of guys do these online tests so we can check that and see, okay, you're about 20% of expected for your sperm motility or 20% of the sperm count. So we kind of get a baseline of where you're at, maybe when we pull your PEDs down to just some base TRT levels. And then from there, I usually like to run HCG at 1,500 units, like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I use HMG as well at like a 75 units, like a Tuesday, Thursday type thing. Right. And again, like because you mentioned timing, I've got some guys that have been doing this for 15, 16 weeks, and we're seeing some good improvement, but have they gotten their wife pregnant yet? No. So. And the other thing is, running a fertility protocol is really just kind of a, hey, let's try to restart the HPTA type protocol. Right. It's not going to guarantee that you're going to get your sperm running 100% again. I also should point out, it's all over the map, right? Because we all know guys that have been 2 weeks out from a contest, and you do the math backwards, and you're like, oh, shoot, he was on this, that, and every other thing, and he somehow managed to get his wife pregnant. He's got those super sperms, And then there's other guys that have been taking this seriously in terms of their HPTA recovery for 2 years, and they're still having a hard time. And the last point I'll leave is it takes two to tango. Always got to make sure you're getting your female's labs checked as well to make sure that she's in a good fertile state. Progesterone levels need to be at a certain level. Progesterone to estradiol ratios need to be correct. Testosterone should be at a nice level. So there's other variables than just running a 6-week protocol. And I think having a coach that can kind of walk you through and it's kind of like shooting some ladders. Like, okay, try this, and okay, nope, we're back to square one. Now we're going to run up this ladder. Let's try this route. I think that's an important approach to take.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. And the one thing I will add is I think everyone should, if you have any inkling of having a family in the future, take something, right? So I'm not saying you have to come completely off and use Clomid or clomiphene, things like that, but it's something to pay attention to. Don't let years go by and think you can undo something. And again, there are those anomalies where they just go cold turkey and they have no problem. Yeah. But that's not everyone.
No. The other thing is too, let's ask, the 22-year-old Kyle or Andrew where our mindset is towards children versus, the mid-30s and 40-year-old Andrew and Kyle. You probably have a very different answer. So I would definitely express to our younger listeners, as Kyle pointed out, maybe think about freezing your sperm, or maybe think about these protocols. Maybe think about, at least once a year, getting your HPTA turned back on. Right. All right, from Glenn McSwain. Do you have any of your athletes taking methylene blue?
I do. I wouldn't say a lot of them, but I have dabbled with it and seen some benefits, just like some other peptides. So it's something, again, dosage-wise, start low. You could always increase things in life. I try not to start at the high end of things, and I think people take 25 milligrams plus of it. You can start very low. See the person, how they're feeling. Usually inflammatory markers and stuff like that can improve, less inflammation in the gut, things like that. At least are things that I have seen personally. Have you experienced similar things? You use it with any clients?
Yeah, I use it with a lot of clients. One thing I should point out, anyone on any SSRI should absolutely not be using these compounds. You can run into serotonin storm, which can have disastrous effects on your health and mental health. But yeah, I think a sweet spot for most people is between 5 and 10 milligrams a day. If you're on 10 milligrams, I'll do say 5 when you wake up, 5 probably pre-workout, unless you're training like right after your first meal. I'd probably say let's take the second dose early afternoon, so you get another nice little mental acuity boost for the afternoon and evening. But yeah, I've seen better markers on both my labs and clients' labs, better cognitive function, and I do think it is improving mitochondrial health. So I've seen the benefits.
Now, do you think, because I think with a lot of the compounds and peptides and research chems, whatever you want to call them, essentially, a lot of people fall victim to introducing it, liking the results or the effects, and then it's like a multivitamin. It's an everyday thing forever. What is your stance on it? Do you think it's something that should be, hey, let's use it for 16 to 20 weeks, then let's take a month or two off? Like, what is your belief? Or perhaps you don't have one concrete yet.
No, I have thought about this deeply for compounds like this and SLU and a few of these other things because, well, let's just say first, we don't have long-term studies of research showing us, are there any negative side effects? Even if someone's been using it for 3 to 5 years successfully, that's just an inkling of time. You know what I mean? And it's one person out of the population. We don't have mass population studies. So I always reserve the right in my mind to say, hey, I might have been wrong about this supplement. But I do think it's one of these things where I do 5 days on, 2 days off. And I think that's a good way to take it. That's how I advise my clients to take it. In terms of duration, I'll say I've been on it all year, probably since about January 1. And I plan to continue taking it until I see research that tells me
not.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right. If this one's from Matthew Price 776, what are your thoughts on like a higher frequency training, like an upper body, lower body, full body, every other day type situation? Let me ask you this first. Do you have anyone train full body?
No.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, like maybe like a soccer mom or like business.
Yeah,
dad.
it's someone that's just your average lifestyle. Hey, I can train twice a week.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe something like that. For anyone trying to attain the physiques that I believe most people want to attain, I'm not doing that type of full body split, upper lower. Again, I kind of shy away from. Again, perhaps maybe someone's recovering from an injury or something like that, so they need to. It's fine. You're not getting the same stimulus. But the higher frequency I like, but I just don't make it upper lower. I think it's just too much. And you're training your shoulder, chest, back, bicep, tricep. Like, it's just too much to recover from. You're moving blood everywhere. So I think being able to focus and getting a pump is part of the process of building muscle a little bit, to say the least. I think science proves that too. But higher frequency, I'll have people, perhaps, let's say they'll do chest and back and a delt movement on Monday. It'll be like their chest is their primary day. And then maybe 2 days later, back is primary. And then they're hitting chest again with one exercise, something like that. So I'll look at high frequency like that, to where over the course of the week, and generally speaking, from a quantitative standpoint, the volume is the same. It's just dispersed a little differently. And for some people, like anything in life, it's a change of pace. It invigorates them.
Yep.
It's fun. And that's something that I think is really important than just going through the motion and you're miserable.
Yeah.
But on top of that, for other people, they can recover better, right? Versus just slamming chest on your Monday, National Chest Day, just benching on Mondays, and then waiting a full Monday. Like, what if coming off Labor Day weekend, let's just say you're having some alcoholic beverages on Sunday and you're hungover, and then you do your chest, and it wasn't a good workout. Now you have to wait a full 7 days. Oh. So it's not always the best, right? But yeah, what about you? Do you upper lower specifically? You do that or no?
So situationally, and I'll give you a situation that hits home, because my July, August, September is usually insanely busy, traveling, out of the house a lot. So I can usually train on a good week 4 days, on a bad week 1 to 2 times, which is I'm very sad to say. But like I said, I put my clients and I put business first. But in this situation, upper lower splits work well for me during this 2 to 4 month period of time, and just as you described it, like let's say upper body 1 might be a little bit more back dominant, and chest and shoulders maybe play a little bit of a back seat. The following, chest and shoulder, following upper body day is a little bit more chest, shoulders, a little bit less back. And then same thing with like the lower body. I'll have more of a dominant quad workout. The next workout will be more dominant hamstring, glutes type workout. So again, is this maximizing the amount of tissue I can put on? No. But it's something that gets me into the gym. And as you pointed out, it's kind of fun to kind of switch things up a little bit and do things a little differently. But then I'm definitely looking forward to like October hitting when things slow down a little bit so I can get into more of a bodybuilding, call it a bro split if you want.
Yeah.
Something more traditional that I like to do.
No, but I think the main takeaway for at least those listening, if that's what works for your schedule and you enjoy it, do it. Right? You can make improvements. Do I think it's the optimal way? Perhaps not. But again, if you have a schedule like Andrew, I'd rather you do the upper lower 2 or 3 times a week than not going to the gym at all for months at a time. So I think being in the gym, however that has to look, is primary focus number one.
Yeah, the worst thing that always bugged me when I would talk to other coaches or even athletes, they just say F it for a month or 2 at a time and they just don't even go to the gym because they can't get any real traction. And to me, it's like, no, like if I have a 2-hour window on Tuesday and another 2-hour window Thursday and maybe a 3-hour window on Saturday, I'm going to make the most of it. And because, no one wants to show up to a show and be the fat coach or, the coach that looks like he's never picked up a weight, like we are in some way, shape or form representatives of our businesses, first and foremost. And I think, practicing what you preach is definitely a paramount. All right. From John Panula, Serostim or Genotropin? Which one do you like better?
That's a good question. I like that question. Personally, I like Genotropin better. Serostim always puts more water on my frame. However, I don't need to question the quality of Serostim or the legitimacy of anything like that. But yeah, that's been my experience. Is more one. I'm a little drier on one, but yeah.
I would go the other way. I like Serostim a little bit better.
You like Serostim more?
I think I just like the big kit, the nice box with 7 little shiny bottles with the blue tops, and I love the smell of the backwater when you mix it. But I'll say this, mostly because when I would buy, say, 5 or 6, carts of the Genos, half the time they ended up being fakes. Mm-hmm. And I felt like using Serostim more, it was much easier for me to spot faulty or fake counterfeited stuff. So. Yeah. But yeah, I always like Serostim, man. I mean, I told you guys before, I think my favorite experience with GH was running a bottle of Serostim a day for about 40 days. And just watching my body like transform to the point where you're brushing your teeth and you have a full delt and arm pump, like you wake up into the middle of the night and you just go and pose and you're like, oh my God, is this even real? And I think for a lot of us that aren't born with, we'll say, those blue chip level genetics, right, that's as close as you're gonna get. You know what I mean? And it's
for
fun.
Sure.
It's friggin' fun. All right. Best way to prevent injuries. What to do to warm up on push pull day before lifting? From Santu, J Santu. So let me ask you first. Do you have like a mobility protocol you send people, or a warm up protocol for upper body or for lower body?
For lower body, yes, just because I've seen countless people, not even from poor lifting per se, it's just they sit a lot. So their hip flexors are just turned off, right? Mm-hmm. And then they go and they try to squat or leg press, whatever they're doing. They're just like, hey, my knee hurts. Yeah. And then I can't do cardio, my knee hurts. It just snowballs, right? So lower body, yes, I have something I advise people to follow, and usually when they follow it, they feel pretty good. It's like anything. But upper body wise, I'll have videos that I'll save. There are a couple like people on Instagram I like to follow that have good warm-ups or things that kind of just get the kinks out. But I think to answer the question, having what works for you, but it has to be something. Don't just go in the gym. Again, you can, by all means, just go in the gym and just go right into your working sets. I think at some point you're going to realize that you have some aches and pains that you didn't have years ago. And then on top of that, your workout is just generally better. When I get blood flow going and I start to get a little bit of a pump, and then I start my workout, I'm feeling it. And it's not food related, it's not hydration related, it's more of like neurologically, and my CNS is just awoken. So that's kind of the reason I go about it that way. And on top of that, again, everything is firing. I feel more comfortable. So I think having a good warm-up protocol is important. Now, I've had people on the flip side to where it takes him an hour. And I'm like, yo, like, what are you doing? Like, get into the fucking working sets. Like, stop dicking around. But again, at least 5 minutes, max 15, maybe, depending on what you're training. Do something.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there. I do have particular things I send people. Obviously, if I know someone has some type of patellar tendonitis, they're getting something different than someone who has maybe a hip flexor issue. So there is some variation there. But there are some general things, like for lower body. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Chris Marvin.
Can't say I am, but I feel like the name sounds familiar. Maybe I've seen a video or so.
He's a chiropractor out of Texas, and he's helped me develop a good warm-up routine for myself that I share with a lot of my clients because it's a good general thing to do. But, I start off with, we'll say a lower body workout. I'll start off doing the 90-90 stretch, the hip flexor stretch. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
Yep.
But he has a very particular way of doing it where he has you drive your knees into the ground for 5-second pulses. So you're actually activating the muscle. You're not just passively stretching it. So I do a bunch of those, usually about 10 reps on each side. And then, are you familiar with the, it's the foam roller stiff-legged deadlift?
Where you're putting your arms down, you're like riding it?
You're basically, you're up against a wall, and you take the foam roller, and you put it against your knee, and you're driving your knee inwards. You're getting that internal rotation while you're doing like a stiff-legged deadlift. And it really activates those hip flexors big time. I actually have a lot of my wellness and bikini girls doing it as an exercise weighted because it works so well. A couple sets of those. If I feel any kinks in my back, I'll do some, it's kind of like what do you call it, the suitcase carry, where you just take a dumbbell and you walk back and forth for a minute. Mm-hmm. It looks cheesy. It looks like you're doing some kind of functional whatever body workout. It doesn't look very bodybuilder-ish, but I'm in my 40s, so I got to do some of that special stuff. So I get about, I don't know, maybe 50 steps each leg, and then I feel great. I'm ready to train my lower body. So that's generally, maybe I'll do some Spanish squats where you take the band and put it behind your knees and do some air squats. That helps a little bit. But those are the general things for lower body. But I definitely invite anyone to follow. I think online on Instagram, he's Dr. Marv, and he's a good chiropractor. He does a great service. He's done it for a lot of my clients where you send him your pictures, like your posing pictures, or you do a video call with them, and he can see what's wrong with you through the screen, and he'll give you particular exercises that you need to do to warm up.
That's cool.
Specific to yourself. And
it's awesome.
It's funny in our industry, we have coaches, we have posing coaches, we have, mobility coaches, mindset. There's a lot of different avenues that people can get involved to help athletes get better, which I think is pretty cool. All right. Oh, here's one. This one's going to be a good one for you. I think for both of us. Kev.zoo, what is the most challenging prep and how did you push through it?
Most challenging prep. There's a few, man. I feel like I never really had an easy prep.
Yeah, I know.
Last prep was easier because no one really knew about it. It was just kind of me versus me.
Yeah.
I've had preps where I've had hectic people in my life creating, violence. So that's very tough to manage. And I think looking back, I should have pulled out a prep. I definitely wasn't at my best. It's like having too much on your plate. You're not going to be able to be at your very best. Mm-hmm. And then in the past, I had ultimately, it was the one time I had switched coaches back in 2017 or whatnot. And I was already prepping for numerous months, about 7 or 8 months. And I just didn't like the finished product, so I kind of started to go, maybe the grass is greener, let me just try a different approach. And at that point, my body was just fatigued, right? So I was able to kind of push through. But because I had so much on my plate, and I've always been one to have multiple avenues of income based on me being at the top and trying to control everything and not delegating, that was always a area of improvement, I would say, for me. But because of that, I just wouldn't sleep, right? So I'd say, okay, I'm going to override this. I'll take more drugs, do what I need to do. I can work off 2 or 3 hours. So at one point, because I was doing 2.5 hours cardio a day, and my training sessions back in my 20s was always 2 hours, I was in the gym more than I slept, right? Yeah. So that's not productive. I would never suggest it for people. But I kind of just did what I had to do, and I think that's what it comes down to. I just had a warrior mentality where I wasn't a victim, and I looked at it as an opportunity. Let me see what I can accomplish. but it wasn't smart. Definitely learned from it, and wouldn't suggest it. So that would be more of the negative experiences of prep, is understanding when you're taking more of something. And that's why I'm very big on less is more. And for some people, they're like, oh, he's too conservative. But it's like, hey, how do you know you doubled your doses? Are you actually getting something from it? Or is it just building a tolerance to a degree where your body can no longer function the way it's supposed to? It's just too much stress on your organs. So you'd be better off taking half the amount and being able to prolong the duration of your cycle and things like that. And I think sometimes people fall victim to just wanting to be on cycle and take as much as possible, thinking, hey, if I do more volume for my chest, if I'm eating more food, if I'm taking more drugs, I'm going to get better. And the answer is that's not the case. I always tell people, if progress and performance was a direct correlation to how often and how long you were in the gym, people would be in the gym 24 hours a day. Everyone would look like Ronnie Coleman. I would never leave the gym. That's not the case. You start to realize, and you probably see it from coaching so many people, and even yourself anecdotally, when I get sick sometimes and you're forced to take off and then you go back into the gym for the first time, you usually get a really good pump. You're not much weaker. You start to realize, like, how the hell I was working so hard for the last month and I had a plateau and I couldn't get stronger, and then I didn't eat for 3 days. I'm 10 pounds lighter and I'm fucking stronger. You realize your body was just taking a beating. So that's just food for thought. But I'm interested to know your negative experience with prep.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of my 2018 season where, it's one of those preps where I'd really gotten busy with coaching and I was still doing a little bit of my day job, doing some personal training here and there. But, and you've probably had this too, where you had a prep where you just get to a point your body isn't moving. You're cutting the calories, you're adding the cardio, you're adding some stims, you're checking all the boxes, and you're like, is my shit fake? Do I need to work a little bit? Do I need to move a little faster in my cardio? Do I need to eat a little less? And I know you're kind of like me, where you kind of embrace the suck, and I think from all my conversations with you, you kind of fall in love with the work, and you like the fact that you have to work a little harder than the other person. And for me, that always kind of drove me to go even harder, to the extent that it might be a negative. And I remember that prep, even at about 6 weeks out, I was doing 2.5 hours of cardio. I was doing, on top of that, we didn't count steps then. It was more like go for these walks, right? And I was doing 3 20-minute walks on top of that after meals. And I remember 6 weeks out, I'm doing some leg press with Nate Spear. He came up to train legs with me, and we're just warming up. And I like 4 plates or whatever on the leg press. I'm coming down, and I feel a pop in my hip, and that thing had been sore for like months now. And I kind of ignored it, and I felt this pop, and come to find out, the doctor says, well, you tore a Bursey sac open, which I'm like, well, do I need it? And he's like, it's good to have, but no, like you can continue. It did make leg training very hard. There was about 3 weeks where I couldn't do any real leg training other than leg extensions, leg curls, adductors, abductors, that kind of stuff. And then 2 days before the show, the Thursday night before the show, I ended up tearing my bicep muscle off the tendon. And while it improved the shape of of the bicep, it's just all these warning signs telling me that I wasn't internally, rationally saying, hey, your body's saying it's not a good time to prep. What are you doing?
Right.
But I continued prepping, and I won my class, and I lost to a good Mike Charles at Eastern USA's that year. And then 2 weeks later, I continued, and I went and did nationals, and I got, I think, 11th or 12th. Could the look been better? Should it have been better? Absolutely. I probably should have pulled out of that prep and then waited until the following year. But I get a little headstrong when I commit to doing something. It's going to get finished. But yeah. I think, like I said, I guess the second part of the question is how did you push through? And my push through, like I kind of was alluding to, was I like the fact that I like to suffer. To me, a prep doesn't feel good unless I really feel empty, unless I feel like I'm really stringing it out. And so I think that's where I get my energy from, or my mental energy at least, is knowing that, hey, it's almost an eliteness of when I walk into gym and I can see someone else that gets in shape easy, and I'm like, you're a pussy, man. You couldn't do this. If it was this hard for you, you would have bagged out months ago. You know? Do you kind of feel that vibe?
100%. I think it's people that see family members or whatnot know I'm not genetically blessed. I've just always been someone that I'll outwork you, or at least I'm going to try to. Maybe you can outwork me, but good luck.
Yeah.
And for me, I guess again, I look at it. It's an opportunity that I'm choosing, right? I'm choosing to prep, so I'm not a victim to it. And I think one of the things that at least helped me, so to answer the second part of the question, I just think what was my driving reason to begin this journey in the first place? What was I expecting to get out of it? And then, as I always tell people, if you set a goal on getting a pro card or winning your class, I'm a firm believer. If you do it for long enough, you eventually will get there. It's just when you do, just like you obtain anything in life, and you get to the top of the mountain, you start to realize that it was the journey that was more important and more fulfilling and satisfying than the actual end result, whatever that may be. And then the reality is, at least how I'm wired, I'm already looking for the next mountain, So always appreciate the journey. If you're doubting yourself because you're behind, that's a conversation to have with your coach, or do a fair assessment and say, hey, am I cheating on my diet? Am I not doing enough cardio? Maybe I have to take a different approach. A lot of people, which I think is important, they always compare it to their last prep. Well, my last prep, I looked like this. This is what I was doing. Every prep is different. Maybe you have a different job. Maybe your body just adjusted. Maybe your off-season one, you didn't get your food as high. Maybe you entered this prep, your thyroid was a little compromised. There's so many reasons that could make this prep so much different than the last prep. So just having a fair assessment with yourself is always really important. And then again, some people have to work fucking hard, man. You have to have those low carb days, but it's all for that central focused reason of why you did it in the first place. Why do you want to prep? And if you can't answer that question, then maybe you shouldn't kind of try to compete in the first place.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's to me, it kind of comes down to well, I was going to tell a story, but I'm not going to tell that one because they're going to know what I'm talking about. I'm going to go on to the next question. I'm going to edit that part out. All right. Oh, here's a good one for you, actually. Jordan Day 11. Aside from genetics, what was the biggest driver of your leg development? And he also writes, massive, bro. And then I got to point out, dude, I couldn't tell that you fucking messed your knee up or you messed your quad tendon up. You can't even tell that. You know what I'm saying? Your legs are back. I think they're bigger than they were when you did nationals 3 years ago.
I'd argue that I was probably super flat at that nationals in terms of my body was just beat down and stressed, right? But as far as how they look, because it's an illusion on stage, it's definitely the best they've looked, Remind me the question. I saw prep right here. What was the question? What did I do?
I mean, I know you train really hard. I've seen some of your videos of leg training. I'm going to answer for you. I think you just went back to what built the legs in the first place. Would you agree?
The only part I wouldn't agree with was I couldn't squat. I love barbell squatting was always my bread and butter, Smith squatting.
Yep.
I don't do that anymore because every time I do that or a pendulum, it fucking hurts. My knee really hurts, and it's my good knee hurts. And I'm just like, whoa, this is my good boy.
Don't play with fire. Don't play with fire.
So I just found the movements that really work, and I just stick to them. So I literally have the same, I think I always refer back to when I go in the gym because I'm like, okay, what order do I do? And I had no pain, feel fantastic, and I seek to just have progressive overload, add in a little volume sometimes, and I just constantly get stronger and stronger. I never got weaker, and that's ultimately what I did. And when sometimes people are like, hey, you want to try this today? No, you can. I'm just so focused on I'm not going to compromise what I know is not working.
Walk us through your workout. Walk us through your quad workout. What's your favorite? What's your preferred?
Yeah. So let me pull up my notes, like I said, because I think I got some prep brain still, man. So generally, what I do, I'll have 2 leg days, right? So I just kind of been doing a push-pull legs, maybe arms, and then no matter what, I always sprinkle rest in. I'll do 2 on, 1 off, 3 on, 1 off, something like that, but I just cycle through it. But let's just say it's my a leg day, which is more quad focused. I always start with my dynamic warm up, which is comprised of lunges, some, I'd say, my lunges I break into three different. So I have a short step, a long step, more focused on stretching the performance, stuff like that. And then my first movement I kind of go into is adductors. So I always do a good warm up there, like 2-3 sets of just getting blood flow. And then I do working sets there generally. From the adductors, I'll go into a leg curl. I prefer seated leg curls generally. I'll use lying leg curls sometimes, but some kind of a hamstring movement always gets blood in my knee, makes my knees feel wonderful. From there, I'll go into a leg extension. I have the ability, because of the access I have to equipment at Iron, which is a fantastic gym for anyone that is in New Jersey. They have Atlantis. They have like 3 or 4 different ones to pick from. I always like the Prime, either pin loaded or plate loaded. So I'll mess with the cam settings on those just to kind of overload different positions. I'll get some working sets there. Now I have a really good pump, and then I'll go into my first primary movement, which is like a hack squat. And then from there, usually I'll go into some type of Bulgarian or split squat, and then I'll finish with like hypers. That's generally how that quad focused leg day would be. Now the only other thing I'll change sometimes after the hack and in between the Bulgarians, as long as I'm feeling pretty good, that's when I'll add in like a leg press, right? So I'll get like 2 compound movements. But that's my one leg day. My other leg day, I'll have the same dynamic warm up. I do abductions, right? So abductors. Then I will do a single leg curl. That's where I'll use the lying leg curl, or I'll use a seated leg curl, but I do one leg at a time. Then I'll go into some type of stiff leg movement, whether you use that like a belt, pitch shark, barbell. If I'm not inside 6 weeks, I'll do that. Dumbbell, whatever works for you. That's what I always tell people in terms of like a stiff leg movement. Then I have something called the gluteator. All right, so I'm sure you're familiar with it with your bikini girls. I like that. It helps me. I need an ass. Okay, and then I go into usually the Cybex squat press. People use it for quads, but I always get more of like posterior chain more so.
Yep, same here.
I love that. Then I will do a unilateral leg press, so I'll start to get more quads in. And I've always done that ever since I mentioned when I ruptured my quad. I focused on a lot of closed circuit movements, so I wouldn't do leg extensions or anything like that because that's horrible for the joint. So I just kept that in the whole time, and then I'll finish with leg extensions again for just more blood flow.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, no, I like that.
The other thing I will do, not to cut you off, I'll add in like a really good DC style stretch for my quads.
Yeah.
To where it feels like it's going to tear again, and like in a weird way, I'm like, let me see if I can do it. But that helps too, definitely for recovery purposes.
No doubt. Your quad day sounds like a carbon copy of my quad days. The only thing I do a little different is I've always been paranoid about tearing my adductors, so I'll save it till I'm a little bit warmer. Yeah, I'm a little paranoid about it because I have torn them a couple times. So what I do is I would do the ham curls first, and then I go into the adductor, but that's probably the only change. Right into leg extensions after that, usually into a hack squat movement, and then a leg press, and then a single leg, whether it's a Bulgarian or a single leg Smith squat or a lunge even, some type of single leg. I think there should always be a single leg movement in a workout. I was going to ask you something about the leg workout too. Oh, in terms of working sets, what do you like to do for, like, say, your prime movers, your hack squats, your leg press? Is it kind of go by feel for that day, or, let me know.
I try for 3. There have been times where after the second one, that's it for me. Usually 3. And I've been, at least of late, I'm not really adding more weight. I used to be a person that I did like a top set, squeeze set, or back off set, right? I did that for a long time. When I got hurt, my top set wasn't even a warm-up. So there was no more top set. So I said, okay, I'm just going to use a weight that I can get 10 to 12, take a short rest period, do it again, do it again. If I could do it 3 times on that third set, usually the reps are fading, but I know I should increase the following week. So now I still have a similar principle. If I'm feeling pretty good, I'll push that last set. Like, I'm putting as much weight as I can, as long as I stay in that required rep range. But I'd say usually 3 sets for most of my things I'll do.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, sometimes if I'm feeling good on a movement, I like especially leg extension, because again, when I ruptured my quad and I couldn't do it, legs was always my favorite body part to train because it sucked, but also my legs were pretty good, so people would always admire them. So I said, yeah, like I have one good body part. Let me fucking make it better. So when I couldn't train them, it made me pretty sad. And then I remember getting into the leg extension for the first time. I couldn't even do like whatever the minimum is, 10, 15 pounds. Like I literally couldn't do it. And I was like, this is fucking awful.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I do it now and I get like a pump for about a year, man, I shit you not, until maybe around February, March, because even when I was training with Nick for New York, Pittsburgh, and then New York, sometimes I'll do a movement. I'm like, I don't feel anything. I don't get a pump. Like I could do this all day long. It's just I don't get the blood flow. But once I started getting that pump again, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do another set. Like this feels fucking awesome. So again, more of an advanced answer. It's not something I would tell a younger person, hey, stay there all day. But for me, if I'm feeling pretty good, I'll get 3 or 4 working sets. And as long as I have a nasty pump going into something after, I am more confident that I'm safe, it feels good, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to love the volume like that. Lately, I've been doing, and again, I'm a little shorter on time, and bodybuilding is not my primary focus. Right. I want to make progress, obviously. Right now, I'm kind of like in a bridge phase, right, where I know I can't give 110%, but I can give, close to 100 and make sure every set counts. I like to do 2 sets, and I try to match my weight and my reps. I try to match, like if I'm doing something for a hard set of 12, right, I'm going to I'll give myself enough rest so I can try to hit that same weight again for the same reps or even get more reps. Or I don't really call it a back off set because I'm not lowering the weight necessarily. That's not the main reason I call it a back off set or whatnot. I'll try to think of something crazy. Like lately I've been doing this thing on the hack squat, for instance, where I'm trying to get to 40 reps on something using a 4-second count negative, and it is absolutely brutal. Like I've worked up to 3.5 plates with 33 reps, right? And like these sets are about 4 minutes long. I mean, it's that fucking hard, dude. And you're shaking when you get to like 22, 23. I'll do something like that, or I'll do some other intensity thing, like maybe like a drop set, trying to get to 50 to 60 reps or something like that. Or I don't know if you've ever done these. I haven't seen a lot of people do these. I feel like I made it up, but I'll do a thing on, say, the hack squat, where I'm using like maybe 60% of my top weight, and I'll do a 5-second concentric part of the rep, okay? So you're doing a regular eccentric and a 5-second concentric. And then I'll take a deep breath, and then I'll do about 6 or 8 reps. And then I'll do a 5-second eccentric phase, and then a regular, drive the weight up. And then once you get to that point, you're usually pretty smoked. I try to get at least 6 to 10 more, just pumping them out as hard as I can. I call it like the 3 6s, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone do it. I invite our listeners to try it out. It sucks, dude. Like it's any of my clients that I bring, and this brings up another point that I think why you probably like legs, because you get a lot of your friends or clients that want to train with you, right?
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, we know legs suck. It's the hardest body part to train. There's no doubt about it. Nothing gives me more joy than putting someone through a brutal workout and acting like it was nothing. And you know what I'm saying? Like I mean, it's what we do every weekend, right? It's what we do every main leg day. But for them, it's like 3 exercises in, they're on the ground, they're puking, they're like, oh my God, like, and they realize this is what it takes. Like there's another level to training this way. So that's kind of why I always love legs, because I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna pick the thing that sucks the most, and I'm gonna just enjoy it while they squirm in anguish.
Yeah, no, for sure. Or leg training tangent.
Yeah. This is from Kay Bagnara. Tips and advice on traveling and competing in a national show for the first time. We probably should have gotten this one last week.
Yeah, so apologies for the delay. But assuming maybe you have another national show on the horizon, I'm not sure if you meant in regards to like packing your food, but you can freeze food, put it in a check bag, take what you need for the day, put it in your carry-on. TSA is much different than it used to be 10 years ago. I'll tell you that. I can bring ice cubes in a Ziploc bag, and they don't even throw it out anymore. Whereas back in the day, they go through everything. Like, I'd rather not even bring protein powder because they think it's cocaine and vanilla, and they're just taking some out. Meanwhile, I measured it, so now I'm like, in my head, that's not 50 grams anymore. I'm fucked up. Like,
Yeah.
So packing-wise, always prep your food, right? Now, we live in a world where you can just Uber delivery, whatever, get stuff. It's easy, whatever works for you. But that's how I would travel with food. And then as far as everything that comes with the show, I would not recommend, let's just say you compete on Saturday, get there no later than Thursday morning. Like, try to give yourself time to kind of acclimate to your environment. Sometimes things go wrong with your hotel check-in. Be familiar with your surroundings. I always like, especially even for any show, like a kitchenette. So I don't want just the typical hotel where they don't even give me a microwave. Again, you can call yourself hardcore because you eat cold food. I've done it more than you ever will, but I don't enjoy it, right? Yeah. So I want to have the kitchenette and stuff like that. Trying to think what else. I'm sure I'm missing some shit.
Well, I was going to throw in, because you brought up a great point about eating cold foods. Like, if you want to eat something, you're going to digest it better. You're already producing talin. So if something's warmer and you got the right seasonings and spices that aren't going to hurt your conditioning or whatnot, you're going to enjoy the food more. You're going to be a happier camper. You're going to peak better. But on that note also, if we don't get a place with a kitchenette, we travel, like, I haven't even unpacked my bag because we got a trip this weekend, right? And on one side of my bag, I keep a burner with a spatula and a hot plate, or a pan. So we can cook up our hot food. I can cook eggs in the morning. I can cook, beef if we get it. I can warm up our chicken once we've already cooked it, frozen or whatnot. And I also bring a small rice cooker. To me, the days of eating cold rice are just not good. I mean, when an athlete has cooked his rice on a Monday and he's eating it on the following Saturday or Friday for the show, it's been cold, it's hard, it's not going to hold volume, it's not going to hold water anymore. It causes a lot of digestive issues. So when we wonder, a lot of guys are like, I don't know, I stayed my plan perfect, my gut was so blown out. It's probably the bad rice you're eating.
Probably.
When we cook rice and then we cool it, you're releasing a bacterial, the spores release this bacteria, okay? And then, so you eat that 4 or 5 days later, you're just putting a lot of bacteria in your gut that doesn't belong there. And then the other thing it does is, as it cools, it congeals and makes a modified food starch that is very hard for our bodies to digest, but the bacteria in your gut can digest. So that's where you see a lot of guys that, man, I've been using rice all prep. I don't know what happened. I ate my chicken and rice, my beef and rice. My gut is just kind of like, it's not working right now. I'm taking the digestive enzymes. It's not. Right. It's because you're sticking to your plan. You did everything was asked, but you're not eating fresh food. I got one for you right now. I had a girl. She did a national show a couple years ago, and I go into her room, and she swore that eggs worked really well for her. And I'm looking around. I'm like, where's her hot plate? Like, there's no hot plate here. And I go, how are you cooking your eggs? And she's like, oh, no, I'm drinking them. I drink my egg whites. No. And this is like the night before the show, and she'd tell me, and I'm sitting there wondering, why are you looking more bloated all the time? You're always bloated. Well, and I say it's my fault because I didn't explicitly say, cook your eggs, And it's made me kind of realize sometimes you got to really, I don't want to insult her, but dumb it down and really explain to people, this is how I want it prepared. So. Right. That was a learning experience for me. All right, we got another good one here. How do you manage international clients? Time zone differences, peaking for a show, and do you have a story actually of, maybe managing a couple, maybe you had some U.S. clients, you had some Chinese or, European clients in the same day?
Yeah, so I mean, I have plenty of stories, honestly. I have clients all over the world, but I was in the Maldives back about a year and a half ago. And they have their own time zone. So when they go there, they go into your phone and they create their own time zone. But that beside the point, I had someone that was basically about 20. They were the opposite of me in terms of normal time, right? So you're talking 12 to 18 hour differences, stuff like that. Reality is, I just go on my phone. I set alarms in terms of, hey, this is when I expect the check-in to be. Usually in these cases, I'm moving from email more to text, stuff like that, just so I don't have any weird issues or a reason for me to miss the notification. But in those instances, I'm just not sleeping as much, and even last year when I proposed in Italy, I had people competing, right? And I'm about to propose and I'm just like, hey man, I need a 10-minute break here. Okay. But it's just, you just stay on top of it, right? Obviously when you're competing, Andrew, when's your show? Okay, cool. I mark it on my calendar. This is what the show is. And I just try to be mindful of how many competitors perhaps I have that day, things of that nature. But I think I never found it too difficult. It's just time consuming in terms of from a sleeping standpoint. So usually Friday nights, I'm not doing much because I have someone competing on Saturday. And usually Saturday, depending on the time zone difference, I can't go to any evening festivity because maybe they're behind me and they need my attention, and I can't be at dinner and not being able to answer a call if they're panicking, stuff like that. But that's kind of my take on it. What about you? What has worked for you or hasn't worked?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that anything hasn't not worked because, like you, I'm paying attention to detail. I think, well, okay, first and foremost, I would never want a client to be able to have a story about me where they could say, oh, he didn't get back to me, or I felt like he wasn't there as if we were in the same time zone, because I've heard stories of people where some big name coaches here that reside here in the U.S. on the East Coast, and these poor people are doing shows, and it's like, I asked them all how to go. Well, my coach didn't even know I was competing. I'm like, what do you mean? Didn't he send you a plan? Did you talk about it? And he's like, yeah, he acknowledged it on Thursday and then completely forgot. And then on Monday, he was like, hey, didn't you have a show this week? I mean, this is a big name coach that people have given a lot of money to. But no, I mean, my most stressful one I remember was back in, I think it was 2021. I had a guy competing in South Korea, another guy competing in Myanmar, and then I had an athlete on the East Coast, Midwest, and California time, right? So when you see that on your schedule, you just know ahead of time, I'm not sleeping for probably about 2 days, or I'm sleeping in 2-hour shifts here and there. I'm sleeping at noon for an hour and a half. I'm sleeping at 8 to 9. And then, like you said, I'm setting alarms. And I also make sure, because I have a habit of turning off alerts on my phone, the do not disturb thing, taking all those clients, and whether it's WhatsApp or text message, putting those into your favorites or whatever it's called, so that those alerts will get through
Bypass,
to you. Yeah, the bypass. And then I think you also mentioned setting alarms in your phone. Like nothing. It sucks when you got to set your alarm for 3 a.m. But I think you really need to communicate to your clients like, hey, I'm going to get up for you, and I'm gonna let's say it's 3 a.m. Eastern time. I'm going to set my alarm for 3 a.m. I'm going to be up until 3:10. So I need your check-in, full pictures by that point, or else I'm going to assume that you just don't care. Okay. So I think when you give them those very strict times, they make sure that they're not diddling and dallying on their pictures and whatnot. They get you the information when you need it, so you can keep everything going on clockwork. So I just think organization and caring, caring to make sure that you're getting your information that they need at the time they need it.
Yep.
Jimothy, I don't know how to say that. Thoughts on a higher carb diet or off season going around? Seems to be popular, interesting currently. Wait, let me say that again. Thoughts on the higher carb diets and off seasons going around? Seems to be popular and interesting currently. When were they unpopular?
Yeah, I don't know if he means like more like the
the sugar diet. Is that what he's talking about?
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I don't know, right? But just to answer the question based on how it was asked, I think higher carb diets have always been somewhat popular. Perhaps some people are preaching them a little bit more or explaining that they're using them. And again, carbohydrates are not the enemy. They never were. So whether it's specific body parts maybe you're trying to bring up, or if someone does better with higher carbs, lower fat, something like that, I think that it serves its premise just based on the scientific output of data in recent years in terms of how carbohydrates are processing and how they're beneficial for us. What about anything I missed?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about, well, okay, let's just look at protein for a minute, all right? And let's just say, Kyle, you ate 320 grams of protein, 365 days a year, and let's just say that equals 60 pounds of protein that you ate. Like if you had a vat of whatever protein tissue, you didn't gain 65 pounds of protein or muscle, right? So that tells us that, right off the bat, there's a limit to how fast we can accrue muscle protein based off the protein we're eating. So larger and larger protein diets probably aren't the answer, and they probably will lead to digestive issues along the way, right? I mean, on the flip side, there's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. We have the ability to make sugar from pretty much any macronutrient that we can eat, through gluconeogenesis, through the liver, etc. So that means that tells me that you're left with carbohydrates and fats in terms of your base macros that you can add in, and where you're going to add carbs, where you're going to add fat. It all depends on the person's genetics, their phenotypes, even their body fat distribution, their inflammation levels. how fast they lose their insulin sensitivity. There's a number of different factors that are involved. It's not like I can take Joe Blow and Jim Green and both give them 1,000 grams of carbohydrates and the other macros being the same and expect the exact same results. So I think, yes, higher carb diets are extremely effective. We need them to be in an energy surplus when gaining muscle and gaining tissue in general. Speaking of, the sugar diet that we just thought of a minute ago, have you ever had anyone use it? I've been learning a little bit about it, but do you have any athletes that you've tried it with?
Yeah, I actually have two recently. One specifically, Ali Prince. She turned pro at Universe. We were behind the eight ball conditioning wise. Body was kind of stalling for the first time. So kind of took a different approach, right? So this sugar diet, there's a method to the madness in terms of how metabolic, the pathway signaling works and things like that. And essentially, we have days that are high fructose based, so more than 50-60% of the carbohydrate intake is fruit based. And then there'll be days where isoleucine protein is low, MCT oil is used, things like that. And basically there is her body, if I show you pictures, and I wish I could pull them up, her fat loss, there was about 6 or 7 pounds that came off in like a 10-day span. Looked quite different, to say the least. And she went from placing, I think, I want to say they're wrong, she placed 4th or 6th at junior nationals. And then 2 weeks later, she just missed the overall by like 1 point, right? If she was a smidge tighter in the backside. So it worked, because we didn't put in any type of compounds or do anything different or do crazy amounts of cardio. I just took a different approach and I said, hey, this is what I think is going to work. And she is a true athlete at heart. So if I say eat hay, she'll eat hay. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, there's some benefit to it. Again, is it similar to keto and the fad when that became popular? Is it something to do for months at a time? No, I don't think so. But you'd be surprised, yeah. And then for digestive purposes, a lot of people feel pretty good if you're eating fruit and honey and shit like that. Most people enjoy the food. Yeah.
Yeah. I ran into her this weekend, and she's still very lean. I know she competed at the Tampa about 3-4 weeks ago. And she said that she was able to talk you into letting her do macros, which is probably something reserved for only people you really trust.
I always tell, when people ask me, hey, what do you think of macros? I can't help you. I'm good. Yeah. It just ends there, because it's just like, hey, you want to do a prep and you just never did it before. Yeah. But when people are more advanced, and if I say, Andrew, have 50 grams of carbs, I trust that you're not going to get them from Domino's and random shit. So for her reverse, this reverse is like the epitome of how to reverse 101. It's almost too good to be true. So the only change was, hey, these are the macros. This is like a good food list. Let me know what you're eating, how you're feeling, if you're having no digestive issues. And it's basically been like very life-changing for her. So it's worked great. So she's leaner than she needs to be, but doing a great job to really upregulate her metabolism and get her hormones right. So super excited about that.
Yeah, we were joking that she was still lean enough. I'm like, well, you should just throw a tan in the suit on and see if you can go win another pro qualifier this year, and get a double pro card without them knowing, On that reverse diet note, what's the primary objective of a reverse diet? aka goal, composition, tissue gained, etc. Okay. We kind of covered this when we did, the post-show episode, a pretty good deal. But, the primary objective is, A1, get healthy again. If you're a male in particular, you've been using multiple compounds and your organs are probably taking a licking. If you're a female, we got to get your sex hormones back online. For me, there's always a period of time, whether it's 2 weeks post-show, 4 weeks, maybe even as long as 8 weeks, where you can ride out and get some positive gains. But for me, the main goal is to stay insulin sensitive the whole way through. Let's say horrible situation, athlete, they don't check in on the Monday after the show. And you always know as a coach, like, okay, they bombed Saturday night, they bombed all day Sunday, and they're still riding that wave of junk food. And usually I send a message out to them like, hey, I haven't heard from you today, and I wanted you to check in. I want to see where we're at. I want to set a plan for the week so we get you back to baseline come Thursday, so we can actually start adding some positive, clean calories to your diet. Usually that gets them back in line, and we have a little bit of recovery work to do, we'll say. But overall, we as coaches we don't expect an athlete to stay stage lean or stage ready throughout that 4, 6, 8 week period. I think we want to look for is making sure that we're not accruing negative body fat in particular areas that are going to be problematic for us in the off season and for the next contest prep. Like if a guy gets off stage and he just starts eating and his love handles just keep getting bigger and bigger, I mean, right off the bat, I know that's going to be a problem area for us next year. Tissue gained, I don't ever put a number to the scale, and I feel like I do things a little slower than other coaches that I've seen online, maybe in terms of I'm not looking for 5-pound swings every week. I'm looking for a more steady, clean 1, maybe 1.5. Slowly bring the calories up, keeping your appetite really high. And that's, this is something that isn't really talked about much post show. Is like, yeah, your appetite's going to be even worse because now you don't have that safety net of, I'm going to be judged half naked in a few days. So sometimes athletes can let that go and they give into some binge eating, some binge urges. But with that said, what's your goals? Is there a certain number on the scale you look for or something like that?
No, I'm never too scale focused. Obviously, everyone, hopefully, post show is motivated to get back in the gym, and they always want to crush the reverse where they think they can gain 20 pounds of tissue. 95% of you are not going to do that. I don't care what you take. I'll leave the 5% for the anomalies that their body just wanted to grow. They were probably over dieted, shit like that. But getting healthy, that's the most important. I don't care how old you are. Again, I'm more conservative, right? I've been more aggressive in the past, and I just find the grand scheme over 12 months, the people that make the most progress are the ones that are healthy physically and mentally. So that's why I usually, again, post-show, I'm not having someone bang high levels of gear or something like that. But again, there are instances where person is mature, markers prior, we're okay, we got blood work right away, I feel comfortable, then cool, maybe there's gear involved. Now, regardless, as far as the scale, like you, I feel like I'm super slow. I don't want to see someone's like, hey, I'm only 4 pounds above stage. It's been 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Cool. You probably look decent still, fatty, right? So that's the primary goal versus someone that's like, I'm only up 20 pounds and it's like 10 days. That's not good. Like, you have a problem. Like, we need to fix this. And they're just like, I still look pretty good. Okay, cool, right? It doesn't mean we're trending in the right direction. So I don't know. If you diet for 16 weeks, why undo all the hard work, especially if you had to bust your ass to get there? Doesn't make sense to me. But
I always say that I think you want to make sure you at least look like you're a contest prep bodybuilder or bikini or whatever for at least half the time that you dieted. Like, people should still think you're in prep for at the minimum half the time it took you to diet. So if it's a 20-week prep, for at least that 10 weeks after, people should be able to tell you have delt lines, you some glute striations, fat's not hanging over your pants, over your underwear, that kind of thing.
Sure.
All right, so with that, we have a physique critique. You want to do a physique critique?
Let's do a physique critique to the daredevil that sent it over.
This is Chris Cashman. He's 241 pounds. All right, so he's 241 pounds. He's a super heavyweight. He is self-coached at 6 feet tall.
Nice.
I think he's got a good physique.
I think he's got a terrific physique.
I think he would have placed at North Americans this week.
Absolutely, no. I think his shape is pretty good. So tell me more about Chris. Is he close to a show? Like, what coming out of a show?
Yeah. Let me pull up. Tell me a little bit what you like about his front and back shot here, and then I'm going to pull up some other details on him.
Yes, I mean, I'll start with the front first. The picture on the right here. His legs stand out. My eyes keep going to his legs. I think he's got some good size there, good detail. It looks like as he continues to put tissue on them, they're just going to look even freakier, which is pretty sweet. I like his abdominals when he's pulling that like half vacuum or a little bit of a vacuum. I think it looks pretty good for him. I would say his arms are probably an area that can improve a little bit. Obviously, his biceps, I think that's the mom and dad thing. He doesn't have the craziest muscle bellies, but they can get better in time. I also think the way he's posing, because the camera's a little down, it doesn't look like he's kind of pushing his hips back, because I don't see the hip flexors as active as they could be. So I think if he was to bend forward a little bit, it would probably look even a little bit better, to be honest. But that's from the front side. From the back, I mean, I respect the conditioning. If I'm nitpicking, I feel like his right hamstring is not engaged. I'm sure there are lines when he hits it properly. And then, again, as far as upper body, just more tissue on his back. I mean, his detail is there. This dude is lean as fuck. So I think that's awesome. He put some more tissue on his backside. His delts are great. I think they actually overpower his back a little bit, so that's why I'm focused on if he continues to put some tissue on his back, this guy would be pretty good.
Yeah, I was just looking through the emails because I know I emailed him back, and because I was asking what show you doing, because I actually wanted to see how we, I would look this one up, but he didn't get back to me yet. But he's self-coached, and like I just said a minute ago, at 6'1", 241, nice small waist, nice flowy quads, good shape. I think he would have placed in the top 5 at North Americans this weekend, provided, and you're pointing this out, I think he's in shape. I think he just needs to volumize a little bit. Like he just needs to turn a corner, and I think we'd just be like, oh wow, him at like a 246, 245, something like that, 4 or 5 pounds of fullness. I think we'd be saying this guy better be doing nationals this year. Let me go and pull up these other shots. We got his most muscular, and we got to pose his back a little better. He's always kind of rounded forward a little too much.
Bring those elbows, triceps forward. Lift the chest a little bit. He's got good shape, honestly. I feel like his lower back is pretty good. His upper back traps is where he could probably use a little bit more. But pretty solid shot. Same thing with the hamstrings. His most muscular, I think he is not. If his elbows were to push a little bit more forward, I feel like that would give him a little more cap to his delt. He would appear wider. But again, I don't look at. There's nothing about his physique where I'm like, oh, this guy sucks. This guy's pretty good.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Chris. If you are doing a national show, you got 2 coaches that are very confident that if you reached out to one of us, we could help bring you in. But I'm going to say solid physique. I'm going to stick with what I said. I think you've reached conditioning. I don't think you need to push any harder. I think now is the time to start to reverse diet just a little bit into the show, and I think that's going to bring an incredible look for you, a full round look with your aesthetic small waist, especially from the back. His waist from the back is like non-existent. I think he looks great. So, Kyle, what else is going on this week for you? Anything good?
I have a client coming in town, Vaughn Walker. People probably know him, so we'll get some training in, put him through boot camp, the whole ordeal. I see Nick this week in person, so excellent. Interested to see what the beast looks like as we start.
I know the listeners are going to want pictures. Can we get some pictures of one of these? Maybe some exclusive update pictures at some point. Would Nick be willing to do that?
I don't think he would mind. Probably he's one to just post what he has nothing to hide. And I admire that about him. He's here to. He's here to win.
Tell him to save us something that he doesn't post on his Instagram. Something, only for the loyal listeners of the show.
I shall.
Yeah, I've got 5 athletes in the Florida Pro this weekend. 2 bikini, 2 figure, 1 classic. So it'll be a busy one, But yeah, I'm hoping to get the gym 3 times this week before that. And I think I don't have anything else to add. You?
No, man, that's pretty much it. I can't believe summer is officially over after today.
Yeah, well, I live in Florida, so it's summer year-round.
Well, I can't say the same.
Yeah. Anyway, with that said, guys, we're Unwracked. Please like, subscribe, send this podcast to your friends, send us more questions, send your comments to our DMs, send them into the comments section. We're happy to help you out. And with that, we're Unwracked.